The main purpose of a winch, in most situations, is to help reduce the workload. Through gear reduction and auxiliary power, they provide extra pulling strength when and where you need it most, whether it's off the trail, in the ditch, on the farm, or in the water. In this Zips 360 feature, we're going to discuss the various options to consider when purchasing a winch, with particular focus on the different varieties of permanently mounted winches. Zips AW Direct has a handful of options available, categorized by power, drive, capacity ratings, and spool direction. You can find winches rated as high as 130,000 pounds, but for the daily demands of towing and recovery, 30,000 pound rated winches can typically handle the job. Electric winches stocked by Zips are normally used in light-duty applications and range in capacity between 1,000 pounds and 15,000 pounds. Let's break each of those previously listed categories down, starting with the type of power, electric or hydraulic. Running off AC or DC power, an electric winch is generally easier to install and operate. However, this type requires constant power to operate and needs rest between tasks. On the contrary, a hydraulic winch requires a pump and additional plumbing to supply oil pressure to the winch motor, but it does offer a longer running time. The trade-off for these additional hoses and components is increased power, improved durability, and quieter operation. Regarding drive, the motor doesn't have to work as hard with a larger reduction ratio. This ratio counts the number of times the motor is required to spin in order to get both the shaft and winch drum to make one revolution. A planetary gear borrows its name from the solar system. A sun gear is connected to the center shaft of the winch motor, which then transfers torque to smaller gears orbiting around the sun. The smaller gears engage an outer ring gear to turn the drum. This multiple gear configuration translates to greater pulling power and speed. A worm gear consists of a cylindrical bar, or worm screw with a spiral thread, that drives a toothed gear. It has a low transfer efficiency, increased gear reduction, and much slower line speed. The hydraulic worm gears offered at Zips.com can pull up to 30,000 pounds, while electric worm gears can pull up to 12,000 pounds. Moving on to capacity ratings. As stated earlier, winches are rated for their pulling capacity and line speed. These are probably the most important factors you should consider when purchasing a winch. The maximum pull for a given winch is based on the first layer of spooled line and diminishes by approximately 10 to 12% for each additional layer of rope. When sizing your winch, you will need to determine which layer will do the most work in your application. According to Ramsey Winch, the rated line pull of the winch must be high enough to pull the gross vehicle weight and overcome resistance when stuck or on an incline. This particular winch manufacturer recommends a rated line pull at least 25% greater than your gross vehicle weight. This helps account for any additional weight like fuel or personal items in the vehicle you are recovering. Winches are also rated for line speed, rope diameter, and length. Hydraulic planetary winches tend to have a faster line speed, which can be critical to getting tow operators off the road in a timely manner. These line speeds are typically measured in feet per second under minimal load. For hydraulic units, the flow of hydraulic fluid to the drive determines the line speed rating. Last but not least, spool direction. Winch lines can be spooled in an underwind or overwind direction, and winch motors are positioned in either a left-hand or right-hand configuration, with forward and reverse controls depending on the model. Each winch has a clutch to engage for operation or disengage for free spooling. Please refer to the winch's owner's manual or the rotation decal affixed to the winch housing for proper spool direction. Regardless of the winch you choose to purchase, here are some good tips to follow to ensure a long lifespan. Lubricate the grease fittings on the winch, housing, and drum on a monthly basis. Check hydraulic oil level and electrical connections weekly. Perform daily observations and scan the winch line for flat spots, stress, and fraying. Avoid bird nesting on the spool with help from power wrapping and a cable tensioner. Inspect mounting bolts often and tighten as necessary. There are a number of factors to consider when purchasing your next winch. Be sure to read and follow the manufacturer instructions for installation and maintenance of your new winch. We hope this video helps in the decision-making process. Shop winches on Zips.com to find your next winch.